The rain poured heavily that night. Thunder roared like angry drums, shaking the roof of the small house in Obele village. Amaka lay on a thin mattress, groaning in pain. Her water had broken. Her husband, Chuka, paced nervously outside. "Please call the midwife," she begged. But Chuka only frowned. "You bring this on yourself, Amaka. You brought bad luck to this house. First, our business failed. Then I lost my job. Now this, more trouble." Amaka gasped in pain, her heart breaking more from his words than the labor. But she said nothing. She clutched her swollen belly and prayed. Minutes felt like hours. The wind howled through the cracks in the walls, as if the heavens themselves were mourning for her. At last, the midwife arrived. An old woman with kind eyes, she entered the house and shut the door behind her. Chuka stayed outside, his face hard, his heart cold. The midwife placed her bag on the floor, took Amaka's hand, and helped her breathe through the pain. "You are strong, my dear," the midwife said. "You will bring life into the world tonight. That is no small thing." Amaka groaned. Her mind was spinning. Pain throbbed through her body, but her heart was hurting even more. She remembered the days when Chuka held her hand during thunderstorms, how he used to cook when she was sick, how he once danced with her in the rain. But all of that love had vanished when misfortune hit their home. Chuka had once been a proud man. He ran a small electronics shop in the nearby town and made enough to live comfortably. When Amaka became pregnant the first time, they were both overjoyed. But she had a miscarriage. Then, a few months later, Chuka's shop burned down in an electrical fire. Insurance never came. Money vanished. Friends turned their backs. Chuka began to drink. And then came the cruel whispers, from neighbors, relatives, even his own mother. "That woman is bad luck." So when Amaka fell pregnant again, Chuka was cold. Distant. Silent. He barely spoke to her. And now, in the middle of a storm, she was about to deliver their children, alone in body and in spirit. The labor lasted hours. The night dragged on, minutes ticking by like days. Amaka screamed, cried, whispered prayers to God and her ancestors. Her body shook with exhaustion. But finally, the cries of newborn babies pierced the night air. One cry. 2. Then 3. The midwife gasped. She cleaned and wrapped each baby in soft cloth and laid them beside their mother. Triplets. 3 beautiful girls, the midwife announced. Amaka was too weak to respond. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She reached out and touched the tiny hands of her daughters. The door swung open. Chuka stormed into the room, his eyes wide. "What did you say?" "Girls. All girls." The midwife smiled, unaware of the storm within him. "Yes, 3 healthy girls. You are blessed." But Chuka's face darkened. His jaw tightened. He took a step back. "No. I am cursed. First you bring girls, then 3 of them. This is the worst thing that could happen." "Chuka," Amaka cried weakly. "They are your children. Our daughters." "I have no daughters," he hissed. "I wanted a son. 1 son. You gave me none. You are bad luck, and they are your punishment." The midwife gasped. "You must not say such things. These children are gifts." "Take your gift and leave my house," Chuka shouted. "All of you." Amaka looked at him in disbelief. She was still bleeding, her body weak. "Where will I go? With newborns? In this rain?" Chuka turned his back and walked out. The midwife stood frozen. Then she helped Amaka wrap the babies again. She looked at the woman lying on the mattress, tears flowing silently. I have seen wickedness in this world, but this is cruelty, the midwife muttered. They stepped out into the rain. Amaka staggered with her children clutched to her chest. The wind lashed at her face. She felt cold, weak, broken, but she had to keep moving. She walked for what felt like forever. Her legs trembled. She could barely see. The babies wailed, and her heart ached. They finally reached the back of St. Andrew's Church. There was an old wooden shed where gardening tools were stored. The midwife helped Amaka inside. She laid the babies on a sack and covered them with her wrapper. I will go and get help, the midwife said. Amaka held her hand. Thank you. Thank you for not leaving me. The midwife nodded. Rest, my dear. You have done more than enough. When morning came, Father John found them. He was a tall, gentle man with a soft voice. Amaka. What happened? Through tears, she told him everything. Father John shook his head. God sees all. You are welcome here. Rest. We will take care of you. And they did. The church gave her a small room behind the building. The women in the congregation brought clothes, food, and diapers. An old nurse from the parish clinic came to check on the babies every day. Slowly, Amaka regained her strength. She named the girls Ada, Chisholm, and Ifenanya, first daughter, God is with me, and love. Despite her pain, she vowed to raise them with love and strength. She whispered to them each night, you are not curses. You are my miracles. One day, you will regret this. One day, the world will know your names. She worked hard. She washed clothes for people, helped clean the church, sold roasted corn at the roadside, and never asked for more than she needed. The girls grew slowly, full of laughter and warmth. They didn't know what they had lost. All they knew was love. One evening, Amaka sat beside the church with the midwife who had helped her that night. You have done well, the midwife said. I had no choice, Amaka replied. They gave me strength. When I wanted to give up, they cried and reminded me why I had to leave. And what about him? Chuka. Amaka sighed. He made his choice. I made mine. I chose to love. Far away, Chuka's life continued to crumble. His new wife gave birth to 2 sons. But the joy did not last. One of the boys fell sick with a strange illness. The other was weak and fragile. His second business collapsed due to debts. His friends left. His family mocked him. He would sit outside in the evenings, drinking palm wine and muttering to himself. 3 girls, 3 curses, why did I let them in? But in a quiet room behind the church, a mother and her 3 daughters prepared for sleep. They held hands and prayed. And Amaka smiled, because even though the night had once broken her, she had risen stronger. Years passed like the quiet turning of pages in a book no one thought would be read. Amaka raised her daughters behind the church walls, a small but sacred world filled with struggle, sacrifice, and surprising joy. By the time the girls turned 5, they were known all over the village for their charm. Ada was the quiet one, serious, focused, always reading. Chisholm had laughter like music, and she often danced even when there was no drum. Ifenanya was thoughtful and always asking questions, the kind that made adults pause. Mommy, why don't we have a daddy? She asked one evening as Amaka bathed them under the mango tree. Amaka smiled sadly. Because some fathers do not know how to love. But God gave you 3 hearts strong enough to love each other. Life was not easy. Amaka woke at 4 a.m. daily to fetch water, roast corn and plantain, and help with cleaning jobs at the church. She never once begged for alms. Father John ensured the girls went to the church's primary school for free. In return, Amaka cleaned the school grounds every weekend. Despite the struggle, Amaka always reminded her daughters, "You are not poor. You are blessed. Your minds and hearts are full. That is wealth." At age 10, Ada won a spelling bee in the local government area. A reporter from a Lagos newspaper visited the school and wrote a small article titled "Orphan Girl with Sharp Tongue Wins Big." Chuka read it while sipping his morning palm wine and scoffed. "Sharp tongue, my foot," he muttered, tossing the paper aside. The girls didn't care for his thoughts. They had a mission, even if they didn't know it yet. They wanted to become something, for their mother's sake. Amaka developed severe back pain when the girls turned 12. Years of hard work had worn her body down. The midwife, now retired but still close to the family, brought herbs and massaged her back. "You have done more than enough, Amaka," she said. Amaka nodded. "But I must live long enough to see my girls stand on their own feet. That is my reward." Soon after, the church launched a community scholarship program sponsored by a wealthy Nigerian American woman named Mrs. Opora. She had grown up in a neighboring village and wanted to support children with academic potential. Ada, Chisholm, and Ifenanya were the first names submitted. When the results came back, the girls cried as they read the letters. "Mommy! They picked us. All three of us." Chisholm screamed. "We are going to secondary school in the city." Ada shouted. Amaka wept, covering her mouth in disbelief. "God has remembered us." They moved to a boarding school in Enugu. Every term, the girls wrote letters to Amaka and sent small gifts with the church driver. Amaka treasured the letters like gold. Their lives began to change, but Chuka's continued to spiral. His wife left him after their second child died. His small motor parts shop was swallowed by unpaid loans. He became a shadow, ragged, always drunk, muttering in public. 3 girls, all gone. Maybe they cursed me. Maybe it was that woman. No one answered him. In Enugu, the triplets thrived. Ada joined the science club and won a national quiz. Chisholm wrote poems and performed on state radio. Ifenanya debated her way to national finals. By age 17, they were offered full university scholarships abroad through the Opora Foundation. They returned to Obele before their flight. The church threw a party. Amaka dressed in a new lace wrapper gifted by the churchwoman. She looked younger than her years. "We will make you proud, Mama," Ada said, hugging her. "We will come back better," Chisholm added. "We will build the house you always dreamed of," Ifenanya promised. They left that night, flying into a future none of them could fully imagine. 6 years passed. Amaka, now in her early 50s, still lived behind the church but had stopped doing heavy work. Her daughters sent money monthly. The old shed was replaced with a new 2-room house, painted sky blue. She now had a phone and video called the girls every Sunday. In the US, Ada became a biomedical engineer, working on prosthetics for children. Chisholm ran a publishing startup for African female writers. Ifenanya studied law and interned at the United Nations. They remained humble. Every decision they made echoed one goal: make Mama proud. Then, one day, they returned. It was not a small visit. It was a homecoming. They arrived in a black SUV donated by the Opora Foundation. The entire village came out. Cameras flashed. Women ululated. Men clapped. The church bells rang. "Those are Amaka's daughters. The triplets. They came back." Amaka stood in front of her house, wiping her eyes with a wrapper. "Look at you," she said, hugging each of them. "My miracles. You have come home." A journalist covering the story asked, "What is your message to your mother?" Ifunanya held the mic and said, "She chose love when others chose rejection. She gave us life, hope, and faith. We owe her everything." The story made national headlines. Triplet daughters returned to honor mother who raised them alone. But there was one more visitor that week. Chuka. He stood far off by the church gate. Grey-bearded, thin, wearing tattered clothes. He had heard the noise, the celebration. He had come to see, perhaps out of guilt, perhaps curiosity. Amaka saw him. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she walked slowly to him. "Chuka," she said. He looked down. "They are beautiful," he whispered. "You raised them well. Better than I ever could." She nodded. "Yes. I raised them with love, the kind you refuse to give. Can I speak to them?" Amaka looked back at the girls. They were laughing with the villagers. "They don't know you. They don't need you. But I will ask them." When she returned, she whispered to them. The girls exchanged looks and nodded. One by one, they walked up to the man who had cast them out. Ada said, "We forgive you, but we cannot call you father." Chisholm added, "You lost the right when you walked away." Ifunanya finished, "But thank you, your rejection gave us the strength to rise." Chuka dropped to his knees. "God bless you. I am sorry. I am truly sorry." And then he wept. They left him there, weeping in the dirt, a man broken not by curses, but by choices. Amaka took her daughters inside. They had a celebration to finish. The celebration in Obele continued for 3 days. It was more than just a homecoming, it was a testimony, a story the villagers would tell for generations. Women praised Amaka's resilience, and men told their sons, "That's the kind of woman you pray to marry." Even those who had mocked her years ago now greeted her with reverence. Still, Amaka remained humble. When asked how she did it, she simply said, "God and love." On the 4th morning, as the village settled back into its rhythm, the triplets met with Father John. He was much older now, his beard all white, his walk slower. But his eyes still held the same warmth. "We want to start a foundation, Father," Ada said. "We'll call it the Amaka Daughters Fund. It will sponsor children in the village, especially girls, to go to school," Chisholm added. "And we want to start with the church school," Ifunanya finished. Father John was overwhelmed. "Your mother planted this seed," he said. "You girls are the fruit. Now you are planting more seeds." The cycle continues. Construction began quickly. Within 6 months, the church school had a new library, modern toilets, and solar lights. Teachers were given new materials and training grants. Uniforms were distributed freely. Parents who once had no hope now dreamed of university for their children. Back in Lagos, Chuka's life worsened. After his moment at the celebration, he returned to the city ashamed. People had taken pictures. Some mocked him online. He stopped going out during the day. But one morning, he gathered himself and went to a rehab clinic run by the Catholic Church. He said only 3 words, "I need help." Recovery was slow. He battled alcohol and depression. But he stuck with the program. After a year, he began working in the church garden, planting cassava and tomatoes. A priest gave him a small room in the compound. Every Sunday, he wrote a letter. None of them were sent. He just wrote, pouring out years of regret, confusion, and sorrow. He stopped drinking. He stopped blaming. And slowly, his peace returned. Back in the US, the triplets thrived. Ada invented a low-cost prosthetic leg for children in rural areas and was awarded by the WHO. Chisholm's publishing firm went global, winning awards for amplifying African voices. Ifunanya was invited to speak at the UN General Assembly about gender equality in Africa. But no matter how high they climbed, they returned home every December, to Obele, to Mama, to the little sky blue house behind the church. One December, they found Amaka looking weak. Her laugh was slower, and she often sat under the mango tree with a distant gaze. "Are you okay, Mama?" Ada asked. "I am just full," she replied. "My cup runneth over." She passed away in her sleep 2 weeks later, wrapped in her favorite lace wrapper. Her daughters found her smiling. The whole village mourned. Her burial was like a queen's. Crowds came from cities and across seas. The governor sent a representative. The bishop attended. Women from nearby villages wore matching white lace in her honor. The daughters delivered a joint tribute. She taught us love, strength, and grace. Her prayers lit our path. Her sacrifices built our wings. We are who we are because she never gave up. After the funeral, they built a larger school in Obele and renamed it Amaka International Academy. They returned every term to mentor students. The Amaka Daughters Fund became a beacon across the region, sponsoring over 500 students by the third year. Then one day, Chuka wrote a real letter. For the first time, he sent it. He addressed it to the 3 stars of Amaka. The letter read, "I was a fool. I rejected you, not because you were bad luck, but because I was blind. I lived in fear. You lived in love. If you can find it in your hearts to meet me one more time, I would be grateful." They read the letter in silence. "What do you think?" Ada asked. Chisholm looked at Ifunanya. "Mama would forgive. If we carry her spirit, then we must at least see him," Ifunanya replied. They visited him in the rehab compound. He looked older, but healthier. There was no ceremony, just a quiet afternoon. "I don't deserve you," he said. "We know," Ada replied. "But you are part of our story. And we want to finish that story with truth, not hate." He cried. Again. But this time, they sat with him. In the years that followed, they remained in touch. They never called him Daddy, but they ensured he had food, shelter, and medicine. That was their closure, not erasing the past, but choosing to end it with grace. At the 10-year anniversary of Amaka's passing, the village held a remembrance event. Girls danced in uniform. Boys recited poems. And on a marble stone at the school entrance was engraved, "In memory of Amaka, the woman who turned rejection into victory and love into legacy." The story of Amaka and her daughters became a children's book. It was taught in schools across Nigeria. And when people asked, who were they really? The answer was simple. They were proof that love can heal what the world tries to break. The end. Love this story. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful Nigerian tales. Check back often for new stories that will inspire, move, and amaze you.